I am Dr. Anuradha, Associate Professor in the Department of Physiology, Sree Balaji Medical College. I have more than 17 years of experience in teaching. I have 9 publications in both national and international index journal. Today, let us see about the salivary secretion. Before going to the topic proper, let us see the objectives. At the end of today's class, you will be understanding the physiological anatomy of salivary glands, composition and function of saliva, regulation of salivary glands, and also clinical aspect about it. So let us start with the anatomy. There are 3 main salivary glands: parotid, submandibular, also called as submaxillary, sublingual, and minor glands like lingual, labial, buccal and palatine glands. Among this major salivary glands, parotid gland is the largest gland, which weighs about 20 to 30 grams, and it is located in the side of the face, just below the ear and in front of the ear. And the secretions from the parotid gland is drained into the mouth by a special duct called Stenson's duct opposite to the upper second molar tooth. And parotid gland contributes about 20% of the saliva. Next is a submaxillary gland. It is about 8 to 10 grams in weight. It is located inside the lower jaw, and the duct which carries the secretion is Wharton's duct. Even though it is smaller than parotid, it contributes majority of the salivary secretion. That is 70% of the saliva is by submaxillary or submandibular gland. And finally, sublingual gland is the smallest gland, is about 2 to 3 grams in weight. It is located beneath the tongue, and the duct which drains the secretion is called duct of Rivinus in the floor of the mouth. It contributes only 5% of the entire salivary secretion. If you see microscopically, it will look racemose in structure with acini and duct. Acini is the secretory unit of salivary gland, which is made up of pyramidal shaped epithelial cells arranged around a central lumen. Above these epithelial cells, we have myoepithelial cells, also called as basket cells, which are responsible for the expulsion of saliva into the central lumen. Depending on the acini, we have salivary secretion nature. That is, for thin watery salivary secretion, we have serous acini. For thick secretion, we have mucus. So, only 2 types of acini present in the salivary gland: serous acini and mucous acini. Serous acini will produce thin watery saliva which is rich in enzymes. Mucous acini will produce thick viscous saliva rich in mucin. Among these 3 major salivary glands, parotid gland is purely serous. It will secrete thin watery saliva rich in enzymes, which is involved in digestion of various foods. Submaxillary and sublingual are mixed. Submaxillary, majority it will secrete serous fluid. Sublingual, it will be more of mucus secretion. It is supplied by both sympathetic and parasympathetic fibers. Sympathetic is by superior cervical ganglion from T1 to T4. The postganglionic fiber will supply the acinar cells and basket cells. So, they are responsible for the secretion and release of saliva into the mouth, and the neurotransmitter involved here is calcium and cyclic AMP, along with that circulating norepinephrine. This will cause vasoconstriction and production of thick saliva. Then parasympathetic, the stimulus is from salivary nucleus, which is located at the junction of pons and medulla near nucleus tractus solitarius. Here caudal part is called as inferior salivary nucleus, which will supply the parotid gland through the glossopharyngeal nerve, whereas superior part is called superior salivary nucleus, which supplies submaxillary and sublingual through the facial nerve, that is 7th nerve. This parasympathetic acts through the acetylcholine neurotransmitter, and it will secrete watery saliva rich in enzyme. The saliva, it is not same as released from the acinar cell. First, when it is released from the acinar cell, it is called primary secretion, which will be rich in sodium chloride. While passing through the duct, sodium chloride will be reabsorbed and potassium bicarbonate will be secreted. So, the final saliva which is reaching the mouth will be rich in potassium and bicarbonate, less in sodium and chloride. Per day, we are secreting around 800 to 1500 ml of saliva with a pH less than 7. And if you see the composition, majority of the salivary secretion is water. That is 99.5% is by water, only 0.5 is solids. Solids constitute both organic and inorganic. Some important organic substances present in the saliva are salivary amylase, lingual lipase, mucin, lysozymes like that. We will see little bit about that. Salivary alpha amylase, also called as ptyalin, is involved in the carbohydrate digestion which starts in the mouth, but it will be completed only in the duodenum. Lingual lipase is involved in the digestion of the triglyceride present in the food. Mucin act as a lubricant. Then lysozyme act as a bactericidal agent. Then blood group can be detected in the saliva itself because of the presence of blood group substance. Then nerve growth factor which is present in the saliva helps in the growth of sympathetic and sensory nerves. Saliva along with this enzyme which will secrete IgA, that is an immunoglobulin secreted in the saliva. So, that is why it is called as secretory immunoglobulin. Coming to the regulation of salivary glands, it is regulated by two mechanisms, spontaneous salivary secretion and reflex salivary secretion. Spontaneous salivary secretion is secretion of saliva continuously into the mouth, that is by the parasympathetic stimulation by the neurotransmitter acetylcholine. The reason for this is to keep the oral cavity moist throughout the day, and also it helps in the speech and swallowing. Then reflex secretion is by unconditioned reflex and conditioned reflex. Unconditioned reflex is also called as innate reflex, which is present from the birth. Whatever food is placed in the mouth, the impulse will be carried to the center and the salivary secretion begins. This is the unconditioned reflex. You might have seen in babies, whatever food you keep in the baby's mouth, it will immediately start salivating. That is by the unconditioned reflex. Whereas conditioned reflex is due to the previous experience or using our special senses. For example, if you think of your favorite food, or if you are hearing the cooking sound, or if you smell your favorite food odor, immediately our salivary secretion will start. This is conditioned reflex because our brain is conditioned to that food. That is why it will cause salivary secretion. Next is the adaptability of the salivary secretion. Salivary secretion will not be uniform throughout the day. It will alter according to the food intake. Suppose if you take hot spicy food, then the saliva will be more watery. If you take dry and rough food, the saliva will be mucus in nature. That is the adaptability. So, coming to the functions of saliva. Saliva helps to prepare the food for swallowing because initially it may be bigger size and it will be rough, difficult to swallow. The saliva will mix us with the food and it will make it as a food bolus and help us in easy swallowing. Next is it will stimulate the taste buds by converting the solid food into liquid one. Then it will continuously wash off the food residues and bacteria and cleanses our mouth. At the digestion, we have seen already in the composition, alpha amylase helps in the digestion of starch, lingual lipase helps in the digestion of triglycerides. Then as a dentist, you should know saliva has less pH and it helps the tooth to prevent the destruction of the teeth. That is, it will protect the tooth enamel. Then excretion. Saliva helps in the excretion of the heavy metals like mercury, lead and potassium iodide. Then also in animals, it helps in the regulation of body temperature. You might have noticed dogs, those are panting when it feels very hot. That is the regulation of body temperature by saliva. So, coming to the applied aspect, so as a dentist you should know about xerostomia. That is, xerostomia means absence of salivary secretion. Congenital absence of salivary gland leads to complete loss of salivary secretion. So, as we saw already, saliva is needed to prevent the dental caries and protects the dental enamel. Absence of saliva will lead to high incidence of dental caries. Then siluria is opposite to this, increase in salivary secretion that you can see in pregnant ladies, then those who are having diseases in the gums and carcinoma of esophagus. Then mumps is an inflammation of the parotid gland due to viral infection, and it is very common in children. It is a swelling of parotid gland and it is a painful condition. Then crocodile tears. When there is a lesion or destruction of the proximal part of the facial nerve, while regeneration, instead of supplying to the submandibular and sublingual gland, it will be directed to the greater petrosal nerve, which is supplying the lacrimal gland. So, there will be tear secretion while eating, that is called as crocodile tears. Then final thing is the Sjogren syndrome. It is a chronic and progressive autoimmune disease affecting salivary secretion. The reason for this is antibodies produced against the salivary and lacrimal glands. Here, since there is a lack of saliva and lacrimal secretion, there is a dryness of mouth and conjunctivitis in the eye and difficulty in swallowing and chewing, and there will be a dental issues like loss of dentition and dental caries. So, as a dentist, you should remember this. So, with this, we have come to the end of this class. Thank you for patient listening.